Good afternoon, and welcome back to another week of In the Spotlight with Tabitha Collins. Hi, I'm Tabitha, and welcome back to the show. This week we have a very exciting guest. I'm very excited to have Dr. L. Brown on. Dr. Brown is a parent and family engagement specialist out of the DC, Maryland area. Dr. Brown, welcome so much to our show this afternoon.
Thank you so much for having me, Tabitha.
Thank you. And Dr. Brown, just to dive right on into it, could you give our audience a background on what a parent and family engagement strategist does?
Most certainly. By and large, I work with agencies who work with young children and their families. And family engagement, by definition, is respectful reciprocal relationships. Is understanding how does one partner and collaborate with diverse families so that we can all move together towards our common goal, which is the positive outcomes for children. And the parent side of that, where I work with parent engagement, I'm working directly with parents to help them enhance their relationship with their children. So essentially, engagement is about relationships. So I'm working with individuals to see how can we have relationships that move our children forward.
Good, good. And define what a family means to you in relationship to your profession
Boom.
for our kids.
Oftentimes we want to give monikers in families like mom, dad, sister, brother. That speaks more to a family structure. So the space that I come from, family is considered a function. It's the roles that we serve for the people that we love. So we talk about family function being the individuals who love and care for you. So the function of a family is to provide safety, love, and care. And that may look different in different homes. So in one home, that might be grandmother and grandchildren. In another home, that might be mom and a stepfather and children. In another home, that may be two dads. So it may be a parent who is a foster parent, but we want to make sure that we honor all types of families because the children that we serve, they're coming from various homes.
And just on that little bit that you said there, and I just thought about this. Do you see a big difference in the dynamic of maybe a what we can call a traditional family versus a same-sex family structure
Well,
within the children?
I could no, I believe children are children. And when they are loved and cared for, they behave as children who are loved and cared for. When children aren't loved and cared for well, they may manifest behaviors that come from children who have not been loved and cared for well. So, more so than the structure, it's about what is going on inside the home. Is the child being uplifted? Are the child's basic needs being met? Does the child feel secure? And so, whomever that security comes from, as long as it's there, you have a healthy and well adjusted child.
I believe that. I definitely believe that. I believe that wholeheartedly. And from your background as being an educator, just an advocate by passion, and a mother at heart, give our audience a little direction on how we can deal with the modern day child. I know for me, for example, I'm raising a 14-year-old and a 16-year-old, and the world looks totally different now than it used to, 20, 30 years ago. We didn't have social media influences. We didn't our voice mattered more, I think, in our generation. As a parent, we took the advice of our parents. We still didn't think they knew everything. We knew everything as a teenager, right? But in today's world, it's like social media is so heavily influenced in their world. Have you come across that? What advice or hope can you give to parents raising children in this generation?
Okay. More so than that bites, we're going to just give it some context first.
Okay,
I
please.
love that you said later in your question that, we're living in a new world. So,
Yeah,
more so than having new children, we have children who are in a new world. We have children now who have access to information that we didn't have access to. So, our more knowledgeable other was parents or people who had lived longer than we have. However, now a child can go on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Google, and they can learn things that we've not taught them. So therefore, they have access to values that may be different than the values that we have in the home. With that, it becomes increasingly important that we have conversations with our children. So we can't now give them directives that, oh, well, you can't do this because X, Y, Z. So I'm going to give you an example. And it might be kind of funny, but it's true. My
okay.
grandmother told me back in the day, old men give you worms. So as a young woman, I didn't have anything to do with somebody who was older. Now,
Right,
if she had told me that and I had the internet, I could be like, Alexa, do old
man,
men give you worms? And like
right,
Alexa was like, no, as per WebMD, old men do not give you worms. I'd be like, why is she telling me that? And it's not true.
right,
So my grandmother, if having that conversation with me now, would have to explain that, okay, an older man knows more than you know, has experienced more life than you've experienced. So that could be a potentially problematic situation. Also, you have your whole life ahead of you. So you might want to diversify a bit and just kind of figure out what you want to do and where you want to go before tying yourself down to this man who is much older than you and may know exactly what he wants. So something as simple as that, well, I may have seemed obedient because I was scared. I was like, well, I don't want worms.
right,
I had the information. I was like, I'm not gonna get no worms. So what we're working with now is that it's not just our voices that our children are hearing. They're hearing our voice, but they also are hearing all these other voices in the world. So we must figure out, how do we amplify our voice so that our voice becomes the voice that our children hear in their head? Because I'm operating with the understanding that as parents, we want what's best for our children, and we're telling
right,
them things that are going to move them in the direction to achieve the things that are best for them. So I would start by being really explicit and very candid with my child. I have a 15-year-old as well. So I'm a mother of a teenager. I know that anything I don't tell him, he can find out somewhere.
right,
So if I really want him to know and understand the who's, the what, and the whys, I really do have to talk to him straight. Because
right.
if I don't talk to him straight, he's going to get his information from somewhere else. So I don't necessarily think that it's something that children now are less compliant or obedient than we were in the past. I think that now they have more avenues for information than we did.
I'm so glad you said that because my husband and I, we really been struggling, and we kept saying, "Oh, they're just so much more disrespectful than we were," and they're just so more opinionated, and they don't respect their elders like we used to, and we've just been really stuck on this whole respect piece, and I've noticed with my daughter, she doesn't get that whole respect thing. Like, not that she's being totally disrespectful, but why that was so important to us in our generation, like you said with your grandmother. Like, my
Mhm,
grandmother raised me. So
mhm,
to think of being disrespectful to anyone that was an elder would be, oh my God, right?
mhm,
But this generation, you're right. They want to know the whys, but I don't think
mhm,
I'm starting to realize I don't think they want to know why from a disrespectful level. I think that they really just want to know, well, why? Like I said to my daughter, I said, I need you to, do XYZ in the kitchen, and I need my son to do this. And she was like, well, that's sexist. And I was like,
boom,
and I was like, that's sexist. And I was
mhm,
like, no, I told you to, and I'm just coming from that respect piece. So I thank you so much for, the enlightenment of that, because now I really can go back and say, okay, maybe it's not disrespect, but maybe it really is
mhm,
um just that I want you to explain, why, the gender has to be so defined. So explain that part about the gender because that's what I'm picking up from
Okay.
her.
And while I get coming from the era that we came from, that could be initially perceived as disrespect because someone told us to do something and we did it. And
Right.
that's complying. We do it without questioning. But then we want to think about what does that look like in an adult's life? The fact that your daughter felt comfortable enough with you and comfortable enough in herself to say, well, mom, if you're telling me to wash the dishes and you're telling my brother to take out the trash, why are you assigning us roles based on our gender? Perhaps he's better at washing dishes and, I enjoy taking out the trash. Or perhaps from an equity standpoint, we should alternate what types of activities we do as chores. I'm responsible for my room, he's responsible for his room, and we alternate with the other chore assignments. So if you want to fast forward 10 years, now you have an adult woman who is in corporate America or the workplace or
Right.
owning her own business. And she's saying, well, no, I'm not going to take, 73 cents on the dollar because I understand my value. Because while I am
Yes.
a female human, my work stands as human. So you're going to pay me as a human. And
Right.
those questions start there. She's trying to make sense of the world that she lives in. So you can do one or two things. You can close her off when she's having those conversations, or you can lean into those conversations to understand better her perspective. So in there, you can start establishing trust as you're seeing her as an emerging adult and someone who she can talk to in the future beyond her times in your household as a guide, as someone that she sees as a confidant that she will be heard, and someone will then give insightful advice, guidance, suggestion, or maybe an experience that you've had in the past that you think is relevant to what she's going through in the present.
Dr. Brown, where were you 2 years ago? You are just bringing revelation knowledge this afternoon, and I appreciate you so much. And before we go for a short break, I just want to remind our viewers that we are a nonprofit based television network, WYTV.org. And if you feel so inclined to donate, go to our website, share our videos, share our message, hit that donate button. We would appreciate that. We are um, funded and powered each and every day by our donations. And our theme this year is empowering, encouraging, and educating our viewers. So after our commercial break, we will talk to Dr. Brown. She'll come back in the second half and share with us how she is empowering, encouraging, and educating the next generation or her clients or what she does on an everyday basis. And we'll also speak to her about our theme for this year, which is I'm trying. So, Dr. Brown, if you will just stay with us, we appreciate you for being on again in the spotlight with Tabitha. And I am on every week on a Thursday at 6 p.m. And if you would please go to YouTube or again our station and share our show, share this with your viewers that have young adults in the house or have catch them young, middle schoolers, as your elementary school, and share this information from this week's show. It would be so amazing and enlightening for you and your family. And I can also be reached at 980-907-3136. And my email is Tabitha, Tabitha, spotlight@gmail.com. So you can reach me at either one of those two handles. And if you know someone that would like to be a part of our show in up and coming weeks, and they are empowering, encouraging, and educating our community, please don't hesitate to reach out to me.
Mr. Happy Living here. I love good things made for good people. That's why I love Happy Living's online e-course. It's an 8-week long deep dive into you and the inspired life you want to live. The life you were put here on this earth to live. the one that you and only you can live. 8 weeks of lectures and ideas and topics and supporting materials and powerful self-improvement tools, all designed for you, all designed to help you create the tools and the power and the confidence you need to discover your purpose and to discover the life you were meant to live, and to feel incredibly inspired and motivated to decide you will live your life to its fullest. It's all designed to help you create the unique and distinct philosophy of you and your inspired life. Go to happyliving.com, select our e-course, and save $100 with promo code WYTV7. And for every enrollment, I'll donate another $100 to WYTV7. For $300 and about 30 hours, I promise you'll never, ever be the same again.
And thank you for coming back for the second half of In the Spotlight with Tabitha Collins. My guest this afternoon, again, is Dr. L. Brown. And Dr. L. Brown is a parent and family strategist. And Dr. Brown, could you please share with us, before we left for a commercial break, we were just talking about family and parenting and what advice you have for us with the generation that's at hand. Could you also just dive a little bit into uh, blended families? For example, I remarried and I had 2 kids. He came in with 1. I came in with 3. He came in with 2. And let's just go across, like, not just so much blended families, whereas we came in with children, but even as far as like race is blended into the family. Could you just deal with that and how we can support our viewers and their families in those situations that need the support?
Okay, well, I will come at that question from 2 angles.
Okay.
First will be the household that houses the blended family, and then the relationships that one must have with other households because of the blended, when we talk about the step parents and such.
Okay.
So when we talk about merging 2 families together to make one new household, which we call a blended family, the biggest thing is values. It's like the parents have to get on the same page first. The individuals in the house, like, what is the family in this household like? What do we stand for? And at that point, you then begin to establish the expectations for that particular household. So, I mean, if we want to situate like a classroom, let's say when you have a classroom, you have people coming into the classroom from various households. Now, we can come in and we can all do our own thing and we can have a bit of chaos. Or we can understand that while we all have our own individual beliefs, we're coming under this one umbrella of this particular room, and this room has its dynamic. So whomever is the head of household or the individuals, the adults, they're going to establish with the buy-in from the children, especially if the children are older, what are our expectations? I don't really like rules. I like expectations, because I can then ask my son, are you making a good decision? Are you operating within our expectations? So with that, together with this new family, the blended family that you've created, I would find like almost like our bylaws. How do we operate? How do we move through the world? How do we move in this household? And I would make that a family meeting instead of thrusting, children and individuals because of love into this new environment and saying, okay, because we love each other as adults, everyone else is going to be able to figure out their roles in this new environment. So the first thing I would do is sit down with the individuals who are going to occupy that household and establish what our expectations are. That's not something that I can itemize, because the things that are important to me may not be the things that are important to that particular family. The same thing holds true when you are blending various cultures. You're taking time to understand what is important to that person and what is important to you. And somewhere in there, you're going to meet in the middle. Some of the things that you may be able to do, some of the things you mightn't be able to do, because they may war with the other spirit to a point where it builds contention. But you need to have those conversations probably prior to marriage. Well, ideally prior to marriage.
Right.
Additionally, if you are blending a family and there is another parent somewhere who is a part of that child's life, then there's another party that needs to be considered, because that child will then be going to a home where there's values there, and those values mightn't be the same as the values in the other blended family. So in there comes a place where the two parents can have a conversation. It's like, what are the expectations? What are my expectations for you? What are your expectations for me? Because in there, you can then find out how we're moving in our co-parenting relationship. Because at everything, the center is the positive outcome of the children. So adults have made decisions, and we want to ensure that the child's existence has as little trauma as possible, or as little stress as possible, based on the decisions that we've made. So that means that there may be some decisions that we make as adults that may be uncomfortable for us, but may provide a more secure footing for the children.
You are helping a village right here. That was really good. And I like the part where you said instead of having rules, use expectations.
Mhm.
I would have never thought of that.
Yeah. So the thing is with expectations. So for instance, when working with children, I have 3 expectations: respect self, respect others, respect your environment.
Mm.
So with those 3 things, you can go everywhere with it. So if someone says something unkind, what expectation were we operating outside of? We weren't respecting others. If someone doesn't throw some trash on the floor, what expectation? Didn't do the dishes, didn't clean your room. We're not respecting our environment. We're not respecting our home. So with that, I don't want to give like a laundry list of rules. I
Right.
give 3. And then from there, we have most important things. So communication, safe. Why do we communicate? Because we respect others. Mom needs to know what you're doing, this and the other. Why are we honest? We're honest because we respect ourselves to walk and operate in our truth, and we expect others as to not insult their intelligence with lies. So
Right.
one of the things that we think about when we work with children, or we're working with our children or other people's children, is how do we get them back to center? How do we get them back to center quickly? And by making sure that children understand what is expected of them, then you can just remind them to get back to center. Are you
That's
making a good decision? Are you operating within expectations? Based on our expectations, how might we handle the situation? How quickly can you get them back to center?
I'm about to have a whole new household this week. And I'm so excited about it. And I just want our audience to know that you have a podcast. So if you want Dr. Brown to help you get back to center, or and teach your children how to uh, have their self, respect others and environment, because I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes. Dr. Brown, tell them how they can get in touch with you, and well, more importantly, before we go there, tell us in the audience about your podcast.
So the podcast is Straight Talk with Dr. L, and I did a limited series where there are about 10 episodes based on questions that friends were asking me. And I was getting the same questions over and over again. And so I decided, well, you know what? I'm just going to put them all in a podcast so that individuals can listen. And it was a very fun project, and people were able to go in and glean some information from some of my lived experiences and some of my academic knowledge, as well as the work I've done as a practitioner.
Oh, that is awesome. So, can you give your information so we can find your podcast on social
Sure.
media?
It's available on what is that? Apple, is that iPodcast, Spotify, on all of
Okay.
your major podcast platforms. It's available.
Okay.
And
Okay.
it's Straight
Great.
Talk with Dr. L.
Our theme this year also, and we'll get back to it at the end. We'll have you give your website and
Mhm.
information. Our theme this year, as I shared before the commercial, is empowering, educating, and encouraging our viewers on this year. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So empowering, educating,
Encouraging.
and encouraging.
Mhm.
Well, essentially, in a nutshell, that's what I do. In the area of family engagement and parent engagement, my overall goal is to increase the capacity of service providers and families. So I'm here I read big books, so you don't have to. So
Okay.
the whole point in spreading the word of families is to give families the tools that might make parenting easier, or to give service providers the tools that might make engagement, relationship building easier. Because it's one of those things that we are told that we should just know that these things are intuitive, and they're not. They're rooted in theory. We are humans. Human development dictates a lot of what decisions that we make. The biases of the people around us dictate a lot of the decisions that they make, and the biases that live within us dictate the decisions that we make. So when you take time to learn and study about those things, interacting with people become a little easier. So when I come to teach and encourage and uplift, I do it through information, because I don't believe that information is power, but I do believe the application of information is power, and you can't apply what you don't know. So my job, my role is to increase the capacity of families, largely because I came from a home environment that some would categorize as less than desirable. So when I became a mother, when I met my son, because I had not had a positive influence of a mother, rather than saying, I love you, the first thing that I said was, I'm not going to let anything happen to you.
Right.
And so with me, because I didn't have that organic experience of childhood, I became learned in this area. So I took time to study so that I would know what to do to not be a bad mother. And in turn, somewhere in that I became a good one. So
Right.
it's really about information and the application of that information.
Right. And you seem like an amazing, amazing parent. Thank
Oh, thank
you. We are also going off of the theme in 2022 for the station, and I'm trying, in quotes, I'm trying. So, can you tell us how you're trying or what you're trying to do or what that means or looks like to you?
For me, trying means giving myself grace, giving
Mhm.
myself grace. I understand that I'm human. And as a human, I will make mistakes. But I also understand that as a human, I get a new day each day that I'm blessed to wake up. So,
Right.
one of the things for parents, not just for me, but any parent, give yourself grace. Sometimes things may not go the way you anticipated, because again, when I talk about those biases, biases aren't good or bad, they're just there. And essentially, they're built from every lived experience you've had from birth to present day. So sometimes when we're making decisions with old information. And when you get new information, give yourself grace, because it takes time to learn to do things differently. But that's how we break cycles.
Dr. L, I appreciate you so much today. You have no idea how much you've helped me, along with I am sure you have helped, our audience today. And I love that. I think that's going to be my new theme when we talk about I'm trying. It's like I'm trying to, and I'm going to give myself grace. Like I'm
Boom.
trying to give myself grace. I mean, that is powerful. And that meant a lot to me because we can be so hard on ourselves as parents and beat ourselves up because we're not perfect. I too did not come from, the aha pie in the sky, family background. And I feel like a lot of times, oh, I've been a bad mom, this or that. But yet and still I know that I've given them so much more than what I could have ever had thought or imagined. And I'm going to apply that and give myself some grace. And I appreciate you so much for being on the show this afternoon, for being on In the Spotlight, for coming on, shining the light on this situation, all of the topics, sharing your information. And before we run out of time, can you tell everyone where to reach you at?
Sure, you can reach me at kinderjam.com. And I'd like to give one closing thought. It came to my mind as you were talking, there's an analogy that parenting is like learning how to change the tire on a car that's currently moving.
Wow.
It's changing every day. You're learning every day. You must give yourself grace.
That is so amazing. I'm so grateful and thankful to God that you were able to be on here and share that, because it really truly did help me, and I know that it's going to help someone else and help our audience. And that's what we're all about. That's all I'm trying to do with this show, is shine the light on people such as yourself and your businesses in the community, and just be that advocate and that voice that we need in such a day and time. And we're so grateful for this platform to be able to do that. And again, this is Tabitha in the Spotlight, Thursday, 6 p.m. Like and share our show. Donate if you feel so inclined to. And I can be reached at 980-907-3136. Or you can reach me at tabithaspotlight@gmail.com. Thank you so much again, Dr. Brown, and blessings to you for the rest of the year. And may God continue to bless you and all of your endeavors.
Thank you.
Thank
And the
you.
same to you, Tabitha.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.